episode 30 of Last Turn. I'm Bart, and I'm here with Evan today. What's going on? How are you on this episode 30 day?
I'm so excited! 3-0.
It's actually pretty cool.
What a number.
Yeah, this is, we're going on close to a year now, which is quite exciting.
We're some rambling men.
Yeah, that we are. Yeah, that's a fair amount of content. That is almost like, that's probably about 40 hours of content that we've made. That's cool.
That is definitely sweet. We hope that everybody's enjoyed it, that you've enjoyed it, and that you found it helpful. I guess we could also briefly thank Blizzard for making the content that we're talking about in our content.
Yeah, right, absolutely. We're not parasitic at all.
We're certainly glad that they've been making Hearthstone for the entire duration that we've been making our podcast.
Yes, that would be awkward if they stopped making it in the middle of us making our podcast. It'd be hard for us to figure out what to talk about.
So wild!
Right.
Wild metagame. It's the only one.
We're going to talk about hand reading.
So I just printed out some Hearthstone cards, and I'm going to go try and play.
There is actually the WoW trading card game that has like a lot of the same art on the cards as in Hearthstone.
I distinctly remember that. See, that you saying that makes me feel better because I thought I might have hallucinated it. I remember
really true.
Seeing, when I go to play Magic, seeing people playing World of Warcraft trading card game and being like, that's stupid! You know? Which is hilarious. Then when they made Hearthstone, I was like, wait a minute, is this that game, or is this a different game? And then I kind of just like forgot the question, which I think is what they were going for.
I think that's what they were going for also.
But I didn't know that they actually just lifted a bunch of the art. That is pretty funny.
They did, but I mean, it makes sense because the WoW trading card game probably didn't reach like a broad audience at all. And like, you know, I have the utmost confidence in Blizzard, but TCGs are kind of hard to swing. I think there were many released, and just a handful of them really stuck. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure the way they went about it was like, we'll invest the minimal amount to see if we can get the Yu-Gi-Oh! Snowball, and then if we can't, we'll give up. That like they probably came out positive or something like that from it. You know, they know how to run their business. That's for sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
but
they're good at it.
I think, being like, forget that, we're going to do Hearthstone is actually evidence of how good they are.
I think
being able to be like, that was not as good, we can do better, and then doing better, that's pretty great.
It is, yeah. I mean, Hearthstone was like, it was kind of a step into a different era, I guess, with like digital card games. Anyway, it's a good one.
It's all right.
So, they've actually spoiled a new expansion. Speaking of Hearthstone,
they're still making it. we have more episodes, Bart.
Yeah, I know, it's really good. This is that's what I was the happiest about, is that it's just not over. So
I'm not fired.
Yeah, right. I'm just I'm still on the payroll. So the next expansion is called Witchwood, or is it the Witchwood?
It's actually the Witchwood. I looked it up. I was like, wait, is it the Year of the Raven? Is it the all of the this one is I think it's one of the few. Yeah,
so we have the Witchwood. That is different from Duskwood, but I feel like it's not that different. So I'm gonna take 50% credit on that.
Yeah, we were right that it's a wood.
It's wood, yeah.
And it's from World of Warcraft. I guess that was kind of obvious, but I think the Witchwood. I think that's...
the next expansion's from Diablo.
That would be. I mean, they did do a Tavern Brawl that was from Diablo.
They did, and that was really cool.
That was fun. I hope they do that again. But I think the Witchwood's a higher level area than Duskwood. I think Witchwood is like in vanilla WoW, Duskwood is like 25, 30, and then Witchwood is like 50 to 60.
Okay, all right. So we should just get better cards then. So it's just better for everyone.
I mean, that would be great. I would definitely be into that bigger stuff because like Naxxramas was sort of like gooey stuff, and then Knights of the Frozen Throne. Throne was like clinky stuff, like skeletons. Nothing. This could just be big stuff.
Yeah.
Like this stuff could be scary, not because it's gooey or because it's clinky, but because it's big.
or because it makes you only play odd numbered cards.
Yeah, ooh, even numbers. Also scary in isolation.
Yeah, so this is so this has been, we've just seen a handful of spoilers so far. What really sticks out to you? What's sort of your favorite card among what's been spoiled?
Well, my favorite thing is definitely the video. They're great. Ben
Mm.
Brode obviously deserves an Emmy for his performance.
I haven't seen it, but I believe you.
No, it's worth it. Well, I think the two cards I want to talk about, I couldn't pick one. I guess the upgrade one. There's the two cards that change your deck at the start of the game that have been revealed.
Mm.
That's just a really exciting effect because it's going to be consistent. So there's Gen Greymare, or Gen Greymane, I'm sorry. He's a 6-mana, 6/5. He says at the start of the game, if your deck has only even cost cards, your starting hero power costs 1.
It's very cool.
So I think that basically is like a permanent nerfed Raza effect. And you don't need to play him. That's what's so amazing about him. Like, he almost looks like a really terrible Justicar. Justicar Trueheart, but you don't need to actually play him. He just starts with the 1-mana hero power, so you can hero power turn 1.
Yeah.
And like that,
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think that was intended synergy. If you're playing only even cost cards, what do you do on your odd turns? Well, now you can hero power.
Oh wow, look at that.
And then there's another like mirror to that, which is a 9-mana beast, Baku the Moon Eater, and this is a 9-mana 7/8. With at the start of the game, if your deck has only odd cost cards, upgrade your hero power. So I think that would be the Justicard hero power effect. And that one makes sense because on your odd turns you play your odd spells, and then on your even turns you hero power, and you want to do that because your hero power is really good.
That's really cool. Yeah, I didn't actually even really consider their choice of assigning even and odd to both, like, either of these effects. Was like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's actually thought out. Who'd have thunk?
Yeah, they design their cards. It's unreal. A lot of games don't do that.
We're too used to Yu-Gi-Oh! We learned too much from Yu-Gi-Oh! That, like, whenever cards designed we're like, oh my god, how did they do that?
Yeah, it's like after playing Final Fantasy XI and playing a game with a functional economy. It's very similar to that.
Yeah, it's also that's another good example. But yeah, so I think they're both pretty great and both really interesting because you just get the effect every time. It's even better than a quest because luckily sometimes you won't draw these cards because in your hand they're not very good. I mean, each one is a card, fortunately, but not much of one.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. I was thinking a bunch about either. I think if you're gonna pick those cards, I kind of want to. Also, I want to pick the one that you didn't pick. As far as the cards that I'm sort of interested in, these are really cool. I put a lot of thought into them. Also, mostly not really quite just appreciating their design, which is really interesting. But where they might go and what they might allow. So with Gen, the first thing I thought about is Anduin, but we hadn't seen Raza Anduin deck, and I don't know whether this is more of a restriction or not. Like. So on one hand, you can't run Psychic Scream, but on the other hand, you can run 2 Dragonfire potions, and there won't be like Draconid operatives around. So it could potentially be that could potentially be strong. You're not going to be able to do like a combo, but maybe by getting doubles of some cards, you can that you could just have a deck that works. But it might not be creative enough. It might just be useful elsewhere or not useful at all.
No, I think that's a great idea. Double Shadow Visions would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. That would go like really far in helping that deck out.
And you could combo like potentially a lot more frequently with 2 Radiant Elementals.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing I also considered is like another kind of deck that would want a cheap hero power is like Hunter, like an aggro deck. But I think aggressive decks really rely on 1-drops.
I agree.
So, like, I don't think that'll... Hunter does, admittedly, Hunter has a lot of really awesome 2-drops, including Secrets, although Cloaked Huntress costs 3. So I don't know if that'll actually work out, but... Wait, is Cloaked Huntress leaving?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't even know what set she's from.
Yeah, me neither. She just appeared
Oh
like
no,
it's like
she's
she
leaving.
snuck in.
She's from Karazhan.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's a bummer.
Um, yeah.
I mean, you
Well,
could play Hunter without her, but
yeah.
um,
It doesn't succeed
Secret
too much.
Hunter. But yeah, no. I mean, I think ultimately, but because both of these cards augment your hero power, you're going to use either one in at least somewhat control-y deck.
I felt that way too. So the other one, Baku. I think what like everybody thought when they saw this is, oh my god, I get to get 4 armor for 2 mana
Yeah, I actually thought, oh, I get to get 4 health, but
again.
I just
So
played too much Raza. I can't believe that's gone,
yeah, well, it's a good thing.
but maybe it'll come back.
Yeah, I mean, like, something like Gen does give you the opportunity to make that happen.
Yeah,
But
but definitely Gen and not Baku. Baku
yeah,
would just
so
be
Baku,
for
I think,
maybe some grindy thing.
yeah, like a 9 mana 7/8 is like a clunky card, but Warrior can deal with that because I think the way Warrior control decks tend to work is that they have a lot of cards that are pretty conditional, and they don't mind them sitting in hand and just like pressing their hero power because their hero power is so good. So
Hmm.
this is I think that Baku being a 7/8 in that deck that costs 9 mana is like not actually a huge deal if it means that just starting from turn 2 you get to keep building up this huge amount of armor.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that there's still enough warrior cards. Like you can Shield Slam, you can use the Reckless Flurry that uses your armor to deal damage to everything. You can use Stonehill Defender, which can then that can be a way to sneak in an even cost card.
Yeah,
So
Stonehill Defender's a good point.
and Shield Slam is just going to be a lot better with your hero power being insane from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and you have shield
So
block.
that could definitely be a thing. Also, it's
Or
hard to
execute.
think of another way to use it. Like as much as I would love to be getting 2 Silver Hand recruits off my hero power, I don't think I could cut Call to Arms
Yeah, I feel like if you're
for
playing
Dude Paladin.
yeah, even if you're not playing Dude, and you're just playing a control deck like Called Arms for Doomsayer, Loot Hoarder, and like Dirty Rat is just too good.
Well, you know what? Maybe in Wild, because you can still muster for battle. Like you just play all your 1 drops, muster for battle, and your hero power gets 2 Silver Hand recruits. That could be fun. You can
Yeah,
still use
I don't know. I feel like,
Quartermaster also.
yeah, that's true. I guess your hero power becoming closer to a card's worth of value would make up for the fact that your deck has this like complete garbage 9 mana card in it.
Lost in the Jungle. It is a card in the deck.
Yeah, right. So
It
anyway,
could be
it's
good.
it seems cool. I mean, both of those effects seem really cool. I think in the
Mm-hmm.
past when they've spoiled deck building restriction type cards, they tend to be underrated. Like that's my read on it. I actually have no idea what Reno was like when it was released. I imagine that one was rated correctly because it just looks good. But um, and then subsequently when they released like Kazakis and Raza, I'm sure those were rated well too. I thought Kazakis was insane when I first read it. But the princes, for example, all 3 of them were rated, among the community like some of the 3 worst cards in the set. And there's like a lot of discussion about how to like sequence your pack opening and your like quest completion so that you minimize the chance that you get any of the princes. Turns out all of them were playable.
Yep, one of them in particular, Kelly, was quite good.
It was dominant. Yeah, it was a card that when kept in the opening hand had like a 75% win rate in its flagship deck.
Wow, that's nasty.
Yeah, so it's yeah, I mean Kaliseth and Tempo Rogue was really good. So
I think Reno was underestimated because no one predicted like being able to get it consistently, and
that
then
makes
people
sense.
just threw it in Warlock and obliterated everyone.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
then it was
those
like,
were
oh right, you can tap.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah. It
really
wasn't really
good.
my ear wasn't really to the ground around when that came out. I think I was like I was definitely playing, but I think I was kind of on a break.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So these cards look really cool. What we've seen
Yeah.
so far, I'm super hyped to see more. Like, it's spoiler season in Hearthstone is one of my favorites.
Hmm.
Probably even more than spoiler season in Magic. Although spoiler season was a bit premature this time in Magic. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, it's sort of unfortunate.
It was definitely
Anyway,
premature. That's a good way to put it.
um, yeah, so it's looking pretty cool,
Yeah, I'm excited.
uh, definitely. But we're also seeing a lot of cars leave, and I think that
Yeah,
that is also exciting.
that's the main thing we want to talk about today, and it's a little bit sad, you know. I mean, they're not gone yet, so this is like an opportunity, like to play some of these cards before you have to say goodbye. But it is ultimately pretty exciting
Yeah.
because we at Hearthstone we did some some math and some research and we determined that when these cards leave standard, it's going to affect the meta.
Yeah, I that's what my calculations say too. It's just like chalkboard with like, tons and tons of equations on it, like they have in the fucking movies with the physicists.
Your mind also has like the triangles and stuff that they use when they're like making football plays, and like the X's and no, it's X's and circles. I also have triangles because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I have a sketch of like the pyramid with the eye on it from the dollar. Anyway,
What does it
yeah,
mean?
so this is things will change. There's a lot of really really good cards that are leaving. It's a whole the rotations are a lot of sets leaving at once, so there's going to be some good stuff. And we're losing the powerhouse that was Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, so there's a lot of really good stuff that's leaving.
Yeah, it's quite. You know, like some decks will definitely die. Like
Mhm.
it's gonna be impactful, but I'm sure someone else, some will survive for sure. Um, should we maybe we should just talk about each class and like how that class is gonna do and what cards it's gonna lose?
I feel like that makes more sense than just like going through expansion.
Yeah, rather than the spray fire, we can kind of start with the big D.
Yeah, big druid, or any druid really, not just big. Even though
Yeah.
big is affected by this. Uh, so big druid loses Yogg-Saron and Deathwing Dragonlord. We're gonna talk about big D.
Yeah, Kun as well.
Yeah,
Kun is a really big combo card for Druid that I never crafted one, and now I like wish I had and been playing those decks because they're pretty sweet, but it's definitely not the right time to craft it because it's leaving.
yeah, I could never bring myself to craft it. So my story with Kun is like I think it was probably correct to play it in druid the whole time, but people didn't really discover that until like post nerf, Knights of the Frozen Throne.
Yeah, and I just won without it.
Same. So I never crafted it. I just decided like, okay, this is probably not worth my 1600 dust. That's fine. But the downside of that is that I never got to play it. And now the deck is pretty cool. Like I think they decided that the synergy it needed was a bunch of cards that cost 0 mana. Because they nerfed Innervate, so it can't cheat out its real cards, so it has to play like Arcane Tyrant and Kun. I'm being like mostly sarcastic, but um, now the deck could just like Kun, Arcane Tyrant, Ultimate Infestation, and you're just like, wow, okay, I thought we were gonna play Hearthstone.
That would definitely be a magical Christmas land.
Of course, yeah, that's not rare. That's not a common thing. But I mean, playing at least one of those things into a UI is not that uncommon,
Yeah, because you just drew 5 cards.
right? Yeah. So it's yeah. There's a bunch of cards. There's a bunch of cards that Druid is taking.
It's losing Jades. That
Yeah, Jades are really huge.
And that's probably really good. We've talked about how the Jade deck is kind of bad for Hearthstone in a few different ways. It like limits control decks.
Yeah, it definitely the existence of Jade Druid made fatigue decks impossible. That like a fatigue deck could never be good or top tier because if it was, Jade Druid would come and just win that matchup all the time.
Because like ultimately, like it's a really good deck. The whole its whole shtick was very effective. Cards like Eye of Blackpaw and Jade Behemoth are excellent.
Yep.
And then just being able to go off with your Jade Idols and Ultimate Infestation, which it got later, is just insane. So that's gonna leave Druid in sort of an awkward spot. I think like what's the default deck? I mean, I would say Big Druid, but it's losing all the gods are leaving. And Kun is leaving, and those are pretty significant.
Yeah, I mean, we might see. There is always the possibility that they print new cards that can go into the deck. So it's tough to. But on the other hand, one thing that Blizzard likes to do is they like to have certain archetypes and synergies. One thing they've been building up for Druid is taunt and armor, actually, sort of just stealing that part of Warrior's class identity, which is strange.
Hmm.
So we might see some more support for that. I mean, there have been various forms of mid-range Druid that had taunt synergy since Knights of the Frozen Throne, when they sort of started introducing that mechanic.
Yeah.
And if you remember the mid-range Druid with Strong Shell Scavenger, which looked like two terrible cards stapled to each other, turned out to actually be one of the best in the deck.
Yeah, I'm like smirking right now because I'm remembering that nonsense.
Yeah, I loved playing that deck for, it wasn't that good. It wasn't really that amazing. I think it was just sort of a decent deck that was optimized quickly. But,
yeah, versus what else was out there?
Yeah. Certainly versus aggro decks. Aggro deck can't really beat that. But there was also, in early, whatever the most recent, Kobolds. In early Kobolds, there was a deck that had a lot of taunt synergy and recruit synergy. So it played like the card that recruited the 4-mana guys from the deck, and it played like the 3/6 taunt that costs 4, and just a bunch of like armor generation. Still has a really, really good Death Knight. Malfurion is still one of the best Death Knights.
Yeah.
So, we might see a taunt-based mid-range deck.
Yeah, because you can get taunts off of Malfurion, the Pestilent. That makes sense. No, that would be really fun. I opened a Hadronox, which I'm really happy about because I really like that card. I think cool. I've maybe played it once and it didn't die. It's a really bad card, but I would like it to be good because it's pretty fun.
Yes, I agree.
You can like bring it back with N'Zoth, like that's the dream.
Yeah.
So giving more support to that sounds excellent, and yeah, I think that they are gonna find a way to sort of treat the taunt minions and the armor in Druid differently than Warrior and make them distinct. I don't think they're gonna give Druid like a 1/11. Druid gets 8/8s. They're gonna everything that Druid gets is gonna probably have some beef to it. That's the great thing about the 3/6 is that you can pretty easily get. It's called the Iron Bark Protector or something like that.
Yeah.
You only need 3 armor, then you can start smacking for 3, and that's gonna be some real pressure against something like a Warlock that might be looking at a Hellfire and a Spellstone that deals 5. Like, damn.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, speaking of, I guess, Druid, but also other classes, one thing it's leaving is Cthulhu.
I was just observing that now, and one of the best Cthulhu decks was Druid.
Yes, historically.
That and Warrior were the two primary Cthulhu classes. So that's once again, there's another sort of fallback deck that Druid is actually losing.
Yeah, it's So I mean, Cthulhu Druid is like, I think Cthulhu decks in general have probably not been top tier for a while. I don't know if they ever were, but maybe they were like when Whispers came out, but I was on break. It's definitely a deck that Druid has had access to and could play and like could do pretty well, and it's just like a whole archetype that's leaving. Granted, it's kind of a parasitic archetype, so it's not one that was gonna like get better necessarily.
Yeah, it only got better with cards like Bran.
Yeah, right. When cards that are like there are cards that sort of incidentally synergize with Cthulhu by virtue of synergizing with a lot of other stuff, or like just more cards that are good for control in a class. Like that would also make it better.
There was a synergy I saw where my opponent was playing Cthulhu Druid with Twilight Summoner, and they revealed an Ultimate Infestation, and the random 10-cost minion they summoned was a Cthulhu. And then played a synergy. Then they played, Disciple of Cthulhu and got +2/+2.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I should learn how to do that. That was really good. Though actually, instead of hitting that, they could have hit a Deathwing, the 12/12 with Death Rattle, the one that summons your dragons when he dies. That's also leaving. That's also a really great big Druid card. Mire Keeper, Fandral, both also really excellent for.
Oh yeah. Mire Keeper is a really big loss. So Mire Keeper is in any archetype that was looking to play expensive cards, up to and including Ultimate Infestation. Mire Keeper is a really, really good card.
He's brilliant because he can get actual presence on the board. And that's not just a 1/1, because you might also play Jade Blossom in Big Druid just because you need to accelerate so badly. But it's not going to be a 3/3. Though you're also losing Jade Blossom. We're losing
Yeah, so that was
a lot of ramp.
Jade Blossom leaving is, a big deal. I mean, you have the Sprite, the 3/1, but I think that's worse than Jade Blossom.
And Mire Keeper.
Yeah, for sure. Though it's got some interesting play to it. But so speaking from the complete other end, another archetype that is leaving is like, or not archetype, but cards that are leaving: Mark of the Lotus, Mark of Yasharj, Enchanted Raven.
Yep, that package of aggro druid. That was a deck.
That was a deck. That's the deck I've played more than any other deck in Hearthstone.
Well, congratulations.
It just means I hate Hearthstone. But more importantly, I hate Hearthstone players.
And yourself.
Yeah, and myself. I mean, I think that's a lot of, like, there's, random neutrals that are leaving too, but I think that's a lot of the most important cards that are leaving for Druid.
Mm-hmm. There's also, like, cards like Menagerie Warden. There's a few, like, Beast synergy cards that just didn't get off the ground, but
yeah,
we're not really gonna miss them.
Yeah, there's not, like,
too bad that one didn't make it.
Yeah, definitely. So next up, I guess we have Hunter.
Yeah, for each, you mentioned this already, but for each of these classes, like, we definitely don't know how it's gonna play out really at all. Like, we're sort of predicting the weather, like, weeks in advance, which is very inaccurate because we don't know what cards are going to make besides those 6, and that's going to have a really big effect on it. We're just looking at what's leaving, but ultimately what is added is going to have a really big impact on what these classes can do and wind up actually doing.
Yeah, but yes, that's certainly true. We're not going to be able to talk about what's going to be good. That is, like, at this point, completely impossible. And even when we have the full spoiler in hand, that's still really hard. But,
yeah.
We can't forget that card prediction and card evaluation is one of the hardest things you can really do in a card game. And it frequently, we frequently get it wrong. Look at Corridor Creeper is a great example of that. As a community. But we can, definitely identify archetypes that are sort of definitively leaving.
Yeah,
the cards will be gone.
We could do some process of elimination, and well, if these are leaving and this is changing, for example, knowing that Jade Druid is leaving, that's going to give more room for something like Fatigue Warrior.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's some amount of hints we can get, but we wouldn't be able to know. Unless we went to Ben Brode's house. It was like, yo, what's up? Baked you some muffins. Can you tell us all the cards?
Double B.
Tell me the good decks. Tell me all of them in the next set.
I would gladly bake muffins for Ben Brode.
That would be a fun excursion.
It'd be really good. He seems very friendly.
Yes, he does. He did that rap.
Yeah, that's actually really sweet. So, I'm looking at the Hunter cards that are leaving now, and it's sort of reminding me how bad a place Hunter's been in for such a long time.
Yeah, it's painful. It's like, well, this was, I guess, technically in the deck, but nobody played it.
In Whispers, remember Hunter's classic class identity, which is sort of, beat down with beasts, right? The two most played cards in Whispers, according to HS Replay, are Yasharj and Call of the Wild. 9-mana Call of the Wild. So this is probably not bad for Hunter. Hunter gets to keep a lot of its good stuff, except maybe Alley Cat.
Yeah, we'll definitely miss Alley Cat because that card is
card's insane.
I love that card. But they do have Dire Mole. Ultimately, they kind of were at a pretty high number of 1-drops, so it shouldn't be that bad.
Yeah.
And I think they still have the Macaw, because that's from Ungoro. That's another good one.
Oh, yeah, Battlecry. Yeah, that's a good one.
So they should be alright on 1-drops. And then Kindly Grandmother's kind of a bummer to lose.
Yeah.
Because she's definitely been really solid. A really amazing target for the Razor Maw, because it's so hard to get her off the board. Like if you just coin out Kindly Grandmother turn 1, then you're almost definitely going to be able to Crackling Razor Maw either her or the 3/2.
Yeah.
So like that is going to hurt a little bit, but I'm sure that what it's going to get is going to be more relevant.
Yeah.
Or what it doesn't get is going to be more relevant.
They're also losing Cat Trick. Yeah, it seems like Hunter's not really. Hunter's actually in a pretty decent spot, I think, in terms of these rotations. It's losing like a couple cards, Alley Cat, kind of Grandmother we identified, and then like Rat Pack and some random other stuff that like is marginal, like Dispatch Kodo. But I think for the most part, like the class doesn't lose a whole lot.
No, it seems to be actually making up pretty good.
On the other hand, I don't think it really gained a ton from the past several expansions, except maybe on Goro.
Yeah, it's been little. I mean, it's been. I'm not the biggest fan of Hunter, so I've been all right without it.
Yeah,
but it does seem like it's been getting hosed.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that was just patches. The fact that every other class could do aggro, but like their class synergies were just not like cheap cards. Their class synergies were just like real effects, like Divine Shields and stuff. So Hunter was sort of just not a good aggro deck because other classes could do it better. But
yeah, when you put it that way, Patches is almost stealing the class identity of Hunter.
Yeah,
by
it
being just a cheap sort of semi card.
Yeah, there were so many decks that were just like tons of neutral cards, and then like a couple decent class cards with patches. So maybe Hunter will come back in some aggressive form. They've been trying to. I think they've been searching for Hunter's identity for a little while. They've been giving it a lot of strange effects. The Spell Hunter type cards. We'll see what's in store for this class.
I'm excited. I think that it'll probably do pretty well.
Yeah. Mage. Wow, there they go. They do not have a lot of stuff in the first part of the alphabet there. We're in the third class. We're on M already.
No, they're letterist.
Yeah, they're alphabet racist.
Alphabist.
Yeah. So, I mean, right at the top of Whispers, we have Cabal's Tome, Firelands Portal, Karazhan. Ooh, Karazhan's got so much for Mage. Oh my god.
Yeah, so that's a good deal of stuff for Quest Mage.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but like all kinds of Mage also. There's also Medivh's Valet, which is just that's a staple in Secret Mage.
Oh yeah, I haven't. Oh yeah, Karazhan actually was just excellent for Mage. Yeah, Babbling Book, Firelands Portal, Medivh's Valet, and Medivh himself.
Yeah, and there's also Arcane Giant, which has seen Fringe play in Secret Mage like a couple seasons ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been a card in a whole bunch of different decks. That's a very real card.
Yeah, definitely.
I always like keep an eye out for a deck I can go in, but I guess I don't need to do it anymore.
Yep. So it looks like it's not losing a whole lot from Whispers, but Karazhan definitely. It's also losing Cabal Crystal Runner and Cabal Lackey. Wow, and Medivh's Valet. That's a beating for that archetype.
Yeah, I think the Secret Mage, unless they add new Secret Mage synergies, like, and mostly hoses it.
Yeah.
Like, those are like the three best reasons to be playing Secrets, right?
For sure. Yeah.
The 5/5 Valet and Lackey.
Yeah, I mean the 5/5 and Valet are definitely two of your payoffs. As is Firelands Portal. That's a card that the decks run 1 to 2 of. So
yeah,
that's a ton of slots in that deck that just freed up.
And then if you wanted to play Control Mage, you're losing Volcanic Potion.
Yeah.
And like Kazakus and Cabal Courier if you wanted to do some sort of Singleton Mage, that's just like not a thing anymore.
Yeah, Mistress of Mixers is going too. That's a neutral card that is popping up at the top of the list for a lot of these classes. Also a really, really good card. Really.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, they tend to be decent at printing cool 1-drops for control. Like Zombie Chow was an excellent card, so maybe they'll nail it again, but they don't always. And Mistress of Mixtures is definitely I'm a huge fan of that card. I love Mistress of Mixtures, so it is a bummer to say goodbye to her. She's definitely clutching all sorts of control decks.
Yeah. I mean, it's a card that just slots into a lot of different kinds of decks. Mid range and control, and like it's a little bit like Zombie Chow.
Yes, it's very much like Zombie Chow, but it can heal
Yeah, it's
you.
more versatile.
It's so sweet.
It's not necessarily better, but definitely more versatile. So that is a card that I think we'll all miss. So yeah, I don't know. Mage kind of gets beaten by this a little bit, but it looks like they've been taking Mage in a different direction anyway. And what it's losing here is sort of just parts of its tempo deck and not necessarily its control deck, with the exception of singleton control. But I think they've also been moving away from that.
Yeah, though it'll also be losing Ice Block.
Oh my god, yeah, that's true. What does Mage lose in the rotation? Oh, I don't know. Ice Block. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there might be some kind of big mage or something still, but I don't know how competitive it's going to be unless it gets some pretty great stuff in the next set.
Yeah, I think so too. I haven't really been too impressed with that archetype, though. Like, not having to. So, losing Ice Block is an advantage. Because now that deck doesn't have to make its like Dragon's Fury or whatever more inconsistent by running Ice Block. Um, I mean that's like not an advantage at all. You could also just not put Ice Block in your deck, but like,
Right.
still, it that is a truism. So it opens up design space, so they can print a card that is maybe would be too good with Ice Block also in the format that does
hmm
go in that deck.
Yeah, like Arcanologist.
Yeah. I mean,
Now they can
Arcanologist.
finally print Arcanologist and it's not broken.
Yeah, that card is still really, really good.
Yeah, I'm glad we're keeping that. But like the Secret Mage deck is definitely really good, and it's definitely kind of getting shafted.
Yep, that's worth noting. I think that's an archetype that's going to be out of here. But yeah, whether or not another archetype comes around to sort of replace that, we have to see. There could be. It depends what they want to do with it. It looks like they're taking Mage in a big spells direction, so we might see control-y stuff, which makes sense. That synergizes with Jaina. But again, we have to see what cards come out.
Yeah, just playing Mana Worms, Arcanologists, and Fireballs might just also really be fine.
Yeah, that's true.
At least at the beginning,
Yeah.
When nobody knows what they're doing.
Tempo Mage has just always been like, oh, I have only basic cards, make a Mage deck. But it's also, Tempo Mage has also been like never horrendous, I think.
No, it varies. Like when Mech Mage was a thing, that was essentially top tier Tempo Mage.
Yeah, sure. So next,
I'm ready for Uther.
oh yeah, let's see. So
Uther.
Rallying Blade.
That is a big one. So I mean, this is a good class to look at because Dude Paladin has just become a big part
monster.
of the meta,
Yeah.
and maybe not so much after this because it's losing Rallying Blade, Stand Against Darkness, and Steward of Darkshire, all from just one set.
Yeah, it's also losing Vilephan Inquisitor and Grimscale Chum.
Oh gods.
So
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So that's bad for the Vilephan Inquisitor is definitely really bad for the Murloc deck. That's like the main reason I think why Murloc Paladin is like rather than some other class.
Like Shaman.
Vilephan Inquisitor is insane.
yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that, like, every time I try to think about Murloc Warlock or Murloc Shaman or something, it really comes back to Vilephan Inquisitor. This card is just such a payoff for being in Murlocs because like it's good at all stages of the game. I mean, it is a 1-mana play, it's also a 3-mana play, and a 5-mana play. And it's just it's a 1-mana 1/3. Like it's not like paying anything to be a 1-mana play in addition to a 3 and a 5-mana play. It's just really good.
Yeah, having that turn 1 is like just unreal for that deck.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So that's a bummer. It's losing Smuggler's Run. Oh, it's losing Auction Master Beardo, so I guess that combo's not happening.
Yeah, it's losing the hand buff stuff, which mostly doesn't matter, but Grime Street Enforcer is one of my favorite silly cards.
Yeah, it's losing some fun stuff, but I'm sure they'll make more. We're losing Ragnaros.
Oh man. We're also losing Getaway Photo.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Yeah, that makes Hydrologist worse.
Yeah, and in addition to the loss of Vilephan Inquisitor also making her worse.
Yep, for sure. So if we do see a Call to Arms Paladin, which I guess what the archetype is called, it may not be dudes and it may not be it might be dudes though. And it probably is not going to be Murlocs. It might be something else. Just straight aggro, or maybe it'll just keep being dudes but without Stand Against Darkness. That might not matter that much.
Yeah, no, it says Lost to the Jungle, and the weapon will make Silverhand
Yep.
recruits 25% of the time. So it still might that still might be a thing. Um, we're losing Ivory Knight though,
Oh, that card's so.
um,
I love that card.
and also just like N'Zoth. We're losing Forbidden Healing.
It's really big.
Um, so those are like I really like those in the Control Paladin deck. So that's kind of a bummer. But ultimately, I think the big thing to take away is that Murlocs is kind of getting shafted
Yeah,
in
it looks
Paladin.
like that deck might be going. Oh yeah, Finch is gone too. Speaking of Murlocs.
Yeah, he got shafted a while ago when a different card got nerfed.
Right. Yeah. Also, we're losing Curator. That's a card that sort of like mid-rangey Murloc Paladin has loved to play since that archetype came around in Agoro.
And I've loved to play.
Yeah,
That's a fantastic
I
card.
mean, yeah, I love Curator. I think it gives a deck a lot of longevity. Very very strong mid-range card.
Well, I'm sure they'll give us some wood that will which is good.
Yeah, I think so too. So regarding Rallying Blade, I think that's really like the big one. This
Yeah.
card has a really interesting history because it's kind of like Kun in that I think it was correct to be playing it like the whole time, but people were just playing True Silver Champion instead. And it wasn't until the ultra fast Ungoro metagame that people started swapping in Rallying Blade just because it like gave you your removal spell a turn earlier, which means you could start swinging your tempo back a turn earlier, which in that format was really important because the format was filled with decks that could like have you one turn past dead by turn 6.
Hmm.
So people started playing it over True Silver Champion, but like at the end of the day, True Silver Champion is still a really good card. So it's not like Paladin is losing a good weapon. Or it's not like Paladin's losing like their only good weapon. They still have a really strong removal weapon in addition to stuff like Unidentified Maul.
Yeah, the mall. I think the fact that the mall is around makes the loss of Rallying Blade a lot less painful. Though I definitely I remember like when no one was playing Rallying Blade, and then I was like, wait a minute, this is perfect for Vicious Fledgling. And like the first time my opponent played a Vicious Fledgling and I killed it with a Rallying Blade, I felt like a genius. Like I got this guy. Like he's just on his turn, full mana, just sitting there doing nothing. Like he's just taking it in right now.
Mm,
And now just it's so ubiquitous. It's in 89% of Paladin
yeah.
decks. But yeah, you're right. But like it also probably we all just should have been playing it. Um, and it is gonna. I mean, the point I think is that Vicious Fledgling will still be around.
Yeah, that's a
So
really
that
good
might
point.
actually suddenly spike in play with the loss of Rallying Blade and the loss of that one monkey guy, Medivh Valet.
Yeah, that's a really good observation that it might make Vicious Fledgling better because Rallying Blade mostly, but also Medivh Valet, that's at least two things that are really major threats to Vicious Fledgling. So those going depends it depends ultimately on what other decks are around, but if
Yeah, for
there's no
sure.
like 3 mana 3x weapon decks that are good, Fledgling might see its day.
Yeah, it's also like you also got to think about Druid's losing Mark of Yasharj, which is like Druid would be sometimes be playing Vicious Fledgling, and that would be a reason to play is you can mark it. So there's a lot to think about, but that the cards are neutral, so
Yeah.
you can just play it like maybe it's going to show up in Rogue again. That Tempo Rogue could possibly just be a slick thing to play right when everything rotates.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they also have that, they have that neat weapon. Weapon's good. So, uh,
Oh yeah, that's a very good point. Shadowblade, they will be keeping that. I think that's from Knights of the Frozen Throne.
yes, yeah, it is.
So Palin's losing their three mana, 3 damage weapon, but Rogue will be keeping
Yep.
theirs.
So will Hunter, as will Warrior.
Yep, Warrior gets
Warrior.
to keep theirs. How's it feel, Garrosh? You happy? You get to keep your weapon like that forever
Oh my god.
and ever.
I choose death. Yeah, so that's bittersweet. But so long Rallying Blade. That was a good card because its trinket text was more than trinket text for Paladin, I think.
Oh man, it's won me so many games at this point.
Same here. Yeah,
Getting permanent buff. And that, like, the health buff, like, this sort of goes back to Finja. That's why Finja was so insane, is you could get a minion with extra health,
Yeah.
and that will just, like, live through so much extra stuff. And that's what Rallying Blade would do.
Yeah, definitely.
Free health.
That's really yeah. Getting toughness and power off of cards is very good. So I guess next up we have Priest. This class actually losing a lot.
Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, Shadow Word Horror is definitely a good card that has been showing up way more often.
So I think I've been sort of biting my tongue on this card. This is one of the cards that I think that probably as a community is the community might be, the happiest this card is leaving. That's Barnes.
Yeah, that was a big part of high rolling people with big priests.
Or big anything. I mean, tons of decks ran Barnes.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that card because there's a bunch of different ways to play it. There are plenty of just like aggro hunters that just had enough death rattles that he was good enough at the times because he's just Chillwind Yeti stat wise. He's a wider Chillwind Yeti. But you could nail like a Savannah Highmane sometimes, and that was good enough.
Yeah, I think that's I in those sorts of archetypes, I agree. It's like a fair deck that's running a card that's fair. But then there's also just 28 cards Barnya Charge, and that's a deck.
Yes, there was also hunters doing that, and that was annoying.
Yeah, so you have like some Renounced Warlock was another sort of 28 card pile that did that. Not that that's a real deck even worth considering in your evaluation, but like the idea is that this card plus Yasharj, both of which are leaving, just created like this. You could put that package into a deck that ran no other minions, and occasionally you just get a free win. And that's not fun. It's also neutral. Both of those cards are, so it appears sort of more than it should have.
Yeah, that's a toxic thing to do.
Yeah, Big Priest is another example. Big Priest is basically a Barnes Yasharj deck, but it also just Barnes' other stuff. But like Big Priest, Barnes and Big Priest is huge. Like if you get that in your opening hand, you feel like, oh, okay, this is a free win.
On the other hand, Shadow Essence will become more accurate because it won't hit Barnes sometimes.
Yeah, that's fine though. I mean, I think Big Priest is like an annoying archetype and it gets a lot of flack, but if it has to wait till 6 before it starts cheating out, like that's slow.
Yeah, no, I think ultimately it's a lot more fair, and I think it's just going to make it less of a feel-bad deck if it can even survive. Like, it is losing a charge, but it's keeping Obsidian Statue and Ysra and Lich King, so it could still... It ultimately looks like it'll be able to survive because it's not losing Eternal Servitude.
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to wait till 6 to cheat something out, I think I'd rather just play Spiteful Summoner and a bunch of like cheap minions.
Yeah,
but
that probably makes more sense.
And that's still around. We still have both Mind Control and Free from Ember. So, although we are losing like Draken and Operative and Nether Spite Historian, and like Bookworm and just some other really good dragons.
Yeah, the dragon strategy is falling apart. Cabal Talon Priest is also really excellent in those decks.
Yeah.
We're also losing Raza, but we kind of already did. Yeah, it kind of is a bummer about the dragons because we just got Duskbreaker, but if they make like a handful more, that'll still be a deck just because of how good Duskbreaker is.
Yeah, so actually this happened once before. When Draconid Operative came out, the Black Ark Mountain and whatever set had like Twilight Guardian in it. Anyway, those sets were rotating when Draconid Operative came out. I remember thinking like, oh my god, they just released this like crazy good dragon and all these other dragons are leaving. It's a shame because like the archetype might die, but we have this awesome dragon card. But it turns out that Draconid Operative was actually just enough for that archetype to exist. So Duskbreaker might be something similar.
Yeah, yep. No, they're both insane. So there's a good chance that'll happen.
Yeah.
We're losing Potion of Madness. That's a pretty excellent card for control.
Mm-hmm.
But I think without patches around, there's like not any reason to panic. If you want to play Control Priest, you still like Psychic Scream. Should be fine. That card's unfair enough on its own.
I agree. We're also losing Dirty Rat. I mean, I guess that's in the list now. It's probably Warrior makes more sense to mention it there, but that's a neutral card that I think played a really niche role in Hearthstone, and it was sort of hand interaction. There's just almost none of that. So,
hopefully they don't give us a reason to feel like we need that with this next set. We're also losing Purify.
You know, that was a card.
It came and it went.
Yep. It came, it was memed about, it actually got played in a close to top tier deck, and it's gone now, and I don't think anyone's going to really care that much.
I mean, I'm going to weep.
Let's go play Wild if you want to play Purify.
That sounds like a really good idea. That's what I'm going to do when we're done with the podcast.
Yeah,
that's my immediate next plan.
I want to play some Wild Dragon Priest. That seems like fun.
That is probably pretty great, and then you'll be able to play Draconid Operative.
Yep. So there's a bunch of stuff that's going. I think a bunch of Priest's existing archetypes get hit. Also, Raza is leaving too, but the Spiteful Summoner deck I think is going to be strong even without even if some of its dragons are replaced by other ones, and it doesn't have Netherspite Historian, it could still play I actually don't really know. I'm sure it'll play something.
It could maybe play Kaliseth at that point.
That's really good. I was like, what 2-drop do you play instead? Yeah, Kaliseth is a really good example.
He's like if you can't think of any other answers, you're like, well, Kaliseth.
Yeah, because I mean, I think the reason the deck isn't running Kaliseth now is because of Netherspite Historian. So if that card's gone, then Kaliseth it is.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think you're right. That'll definitely still be a deck, and it'll probably be way better than any kind of big priest.
Yeah, for sure.
But based on the limited knowledge we have.
Of course, yeah. All these predictions have massive asterisk, which is that we might be wrong.
Bart, you have a massive asterisk.
Thanks, dude. I try. I work out at the library.
Me too. That's what I do. I just go up the stairs.
So
speaking of stairs, let's look at Rogue.
Yeah, that's a stairs class. So Rogue's losing Counterfeit Coin. That card doesn't do anything. It's losing Shaku. That's a shame.
And Huckster.
Oh my god, really?
But anyone else with me can also finally feel great about having never crafted Zarel.
Yeah, I do. Zarel is like I feel the same way about Zarel as I do about Kun, but I think Zarel's just worse.
Yeah, no, I think Kun is better, but I think there probably have been times where I wanted to or tried to play Rogue, and Zarel would have been good, and I just didn't make it.
Yep, just play something else.
And now I don't need to worry about it anymore. Though it's actually it's definitely a good card.
Yeah, I think it's.
It had a lot of cool synergy in certain places, like with Arcane Giants. Excellent with Arcane Giant.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's when you can get synergy out of its effect, it's nice, and even when you can't, it's it is actually a pretty good value card. But especially now with the Elven Minstrel, I don't think the decks really have room for another 4-mana 3/2.
True. Yeah, no, I don't think it's a big loss.
And so yeah, Huckster is really big. Cthulhu's gone. So are Jades. Those are fringe archetypes in this class.
It doesn't look like it looks like Counterfeit Coin is actually the biggest card that is losing, because it doesn't even really have a viable archetype right now for the most part, besides Miracle Rogue, and Miracle Rogue definitely likes Counterfeit Coin.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, losing Shadow Strike and Swashbuckler sucks, but I think Swashbuckler's already lost, and Shadow Strike is replaceable.
Yeah, I really don't see that one very often. It doesn't seem to be able to keep up with all the nonsense of today.
Yeah, for sure.
So we might, so Rogue actually doesn't look like it's losing all that much. It could be a deck like you mentioned with Shadowblade.
Yeah, potentially.
Some sort of tempo or Miracle Rogue could just be a thing, with all these other classes losing a bunch of their favorite cards and Rogue sticking together for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, lack of patches makes Tempo Rogue a lot worse, but there's still a bunch of other payoffs you could run, including, Vilespine and SI7 Agent. So That
Yes.
could still be a deck. At least early on, it'll probably do well, but it depends. Depends what other stuff we see.
You still have Firefly.
Yeah, that's true. Firefly's a really good card.
So one card that we're losing, this is sort of a fun one that I always wanted to be good. It's the 3 mana 3/3 mech that gives +1/+1 to a beast, a dragon, and a murloc you
Oh
control.
yeah, I wanted that to be good too.
And like when Dire Mole was printed, I was like, this is it. We're gonna be playing turn one beasts in some class, probably rogue, and then turn two, you know, Murlocs, and then playing this guy, and it's gonna be great. And I was like, sure, there'd be some way to make Dire Mole work, and I tried really hard, and I didn't find a way. But maybe someday in Wild,
Yeah,
we'll be able to live that dream,
someday.
because that card's definitely going out.
Yeah, that's well, we'll miss it.
It can join the other mechs
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them in Wild.
in the scrap heap.
So what? Shaman's losing all of its good cards?
It looks like, whoa, Thing from Below,
Maelstrom Portal,
4 mana 7/7 Maelstrom Portal. That is brutal.
Jade
That's
Claws,
like,
pour one out.
oh man. If you were like, Evan, do you want to play Shaman? I'd be like, sure, I want to play Jade Claws and Maelstrom Portal and 26 cards.
Right, and Devolve. It's losing Devolve also, sort of late to the party, but good.
Oof.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Doppelgangster
Get
Evolve, both leaving.
Donkadunked.
Yep. It's this class is not in a good spot right now, and like it's like losing the last of its hold. Maybe they'll add more freeze shaman support.
I hope so. That would be so good. That would make me so happy. No, even it's losing Halazeal the Ascended, which is a fun card.
Yeah,
That's kind of a bummer.
I've definitely conceded to that card before.
It is. It makes people concede. It does that. It does work. Jade Claws.
I know that is a beating. So
Oh, and Wicked Witch Doctor. There was a time when that card was good. That was a fun time.
yeah,
Spirit Claws, like, I'm also leaving, guys.
it's like you've already left.
Yeah.
Yeah, this class is actually getting hurt pretty bad. So Jade Lightning and Jade Claws were just a package that this deck ran with Aya. So that was like 5 cards right there that was good enough for you to run in the deck because they're all just like super strong and they support each other. So losing those cards is like a big hurt to pretty much any shaman deck.
Yeah, and White Eyes, Jinyu Water Speaker.
Yeah.
Those are also just like really solid.
Also, Devolve is like Devolve's a little bit like Hex. So I always felt like Devolve was just Hex but cheaper. And the fact that that's leaving is like also a really big beating to the class. Like that's just a huge tool that it had for getting through taunts and stuff. So like it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it looks like really a lot of the mid-range and late game power that the class had is getting removed by, like you said, we're not that worried about Jade Spirit and the Chieftain. We could live without those cards. It's Black Paw, Jade Lightning, and Claws. And then Devolve is just this ubiquitous silence that is unreal sometimes against like Big Priest, for example. It does a huge amount of work against a Dude Paladin or a Murloc Paladin because it changes their guys. That's sort of why the deck could go the mid-range or late game route. So this is definitely not good.
Yeah, it's a big pain for the class. And also losing, the 4 mana 7/7 Flame Wreathed Faceless is
Boom shakalaka. And then also another like sort of strategy it had, which could even go in tandem or separate from the Jade stuff, is Evolve. Unstable evolution is definitely not the same. That's sort of like I think backup for Evolve. It's like the backup dancer. So I think that they maybe are gonna give us some Murlocs because they're taking away Paladin's Murlocs, so maybe they'll give Shaman the Murloc support it needs to actually be a thing. Because it's like kind of close.
Yeah, I mean, it'll have the
Um,
quest. It has Burlock. It has ice fishing. Some or none of that might see play.
so yeah, it'll depend on what if they do support that. But if they don't support Murloc, they'll need to do something pretty clever and creative. Maybe print some strong battle cries to go with that elemental or something like that.
Yeah,
Guess there's always elemental shaman.
yeah, that is
Maybe
still around. Yeah, that's unfortunate
it's
for this class.
it's pretty. It's still Stonehill Defender will still be good, though it's a lot worse not being able to hit things from below anymore.
Yeah, for sure. So next up we have Warlock. Uh,
Wigglelock.
so it looks like I think a lot of Warlock's best cards were sort of more recent. It looks like some random stuff for Zoo type decks is leaving, but not a whole lot. Like Possessed Villager, Darkshire Councilman, that's a really good card.
Yeah, no, that was excellent. Zoo. Looks like the biggest card it's losing is Mistress of Mixtures.
Yeah, yeah, definitely in terms of playable, in terms of percentage played. There's also Malthazar Simp in terms of class cards.
Oh, I like that guy. That sucks.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a beating. Um, but I think that's like people are not going to be too unhappy to lose discard synergy. That's never really been
Mm.
popular or amazing. There's also the Crystal Weaver and Blood Fury Potion, sort of two latecomers. Abyssal Enforcer, that card's good.
Ooh, yeah. So I guess we're losing some demon support, but I
That's fine.
think
Demons
yeah, a
took a
lot
different
of the
direction.
best cards. You're right. Appear to have been recent enough to survive this. And then yeah, Malchazar's Infant Silverware Golem are some of the best support for a discard deck. So that's probably not going to be a thing for a while. Not that it really ever was.
Yeah, so one thing to keep in mind is like they've sort of signaled to us a direction they want to take Wardlock. They have the Spellstone, and the Spellstone improves whenever you take damage. They printed a few cards that deal damage to you, like the 2 mana 2/4 Taunt, the Librarian, and the class already had Hellfire, and it has this hero power. And they rotated Molten Giant, so that might mean that they want to take the class's synergy in that direction. Because I think like having a Suicide class is really cool. Those are really cool. Paying life for some other value is like pretty potent, and a lot of your gameplay is actually already doing that. Like when you choose to leave up a minion and play like a draw spell or something. Uh,
Hmm.
but Warlock has access to doing that proactively and more directly, so they can start trading their life off as a resource earlier and use it for maybe tempo or even value in the late game. So having printing cards that support that synergy and also taking away Molten Giant tells us that maybe they wanted to make some design space for some new cards that are coming
Yeah, there's that would be really fun because I really love that archetype. That sort of suicidal archetype with there's cards like Blood Bloom
in. Yeah,
that
right.
I think maybe they were hesitant to make that because of Molten Giant, and maybe they would have made it stronger, and maybe they'll make more cards that make you want to play that. Um, and yeah, they've printed cards that damage you. Just they haven't been good enough, like Pit Lord. Like it's too much of a punishment. I think that we're like you said, trying to avoid making anything too stupid with Molten Giant.
Yeah,
And now that they're removing that problem, that should open up that space. And we might maybe we'll also get more cards that are sort of like Fellfire Potion or Hellfire that are cheaper and more efficient and just deal more damage to you.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm sure people would
something
love that.
like there's the 3 mana one that like deals damage at random. Maybe like something that isn't bad, that deals more damage to you, but can wipe the board.
Yeah,
That definitely be the kind of thing I'd like to play in Warlock.
right. But it's worth noting that a lot of their best class cards and stuff and class stuff is actually recent. So remember as far back as recently rather as Angora, Warlock was in a pretty bad space.
Yeah, it wasn't really till Voidlord came around that it was even good.
Yeah, that's true.
But now it's insane. I think if there's one class I'm certain is going to be competitive after this rotation is Warlock.
I think so. Yeah, I mean the Void Lord deck, the Q block, and just various control Warlock decks are extremely widely played and very strong.
And they're barely losing anything. Like
Yeah,
it's really just Mistress of Mixtures is the biggest hit they're taking.
Yeah, definitely.
Meanwhile, some other classes are getting completely shafted, so they're going to be in a very good spot.
It is true. Um, so next up we have Warrior, and Warrior appears to be losing a couple cards from archetypes of past, like N'Zoth's First Mate and Blood Cell Cultist.
Mm.
Also patches, so I think Warrior was probably the class that could use patches post nerf the best, but it's gone now, so save
Pirate Warrior is dying.
It's also it's also losing N'Zoth, which is more of a historical nod than anything else. That card has sort of been the best in Wild for a really long time, but Warrior would also play it sometimes.
Yeah, it's something you would want in Fatigue Warrior most likely. So that's if there is a Fatigue Warrior deck, it's not going to be abusing Death Rattles in the same way as other ones have. It is losing Sleep with the Fishes, which is definitely a good Control Warrior card, but since there's also Reckless Flurry, I think that's not as big of a deal.
Yeah, it's good, but I think it's not a staple. It's not something that the class absolutely lives or dies on.
Yeah, no, not at all. It would have been, as long as there's some kind of board wiping, you're going to be pretty happy. That one probably won't be missed.
Yeah.
Ravaging Ghoul is pretty sweet, though.
Yeah, that's a really good card.
I guess if you're going to play the Recruit deck, though, you wouldn't want that. So maybe the Recruit deck in Warrior is going to get better.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, they did print support for it, so we'll see what happens. They might have been waiting until like Yasharj and stuff leaves before they bring out their big guys.
That's true. That's going to be happening. Those are leaving, so they might be able to support the Warrior Recruit deck even more in this next set.
Yeah, so we'll see what they do. There's also Ali Armorsmith is leaving. That card's marginal, but still something that's off playing Taunt Warrior and still like a pretty good card. So worth noting.
Curator. Yeah, she is strong for sure.
Yeah. So that's but yeah, I think Warrior like makes it out pretty well, but they're in such a terrible spot right now that doesn't really say a lot. So they're going to need some support from the new set to actually see some play on the ladder.
Yeah, I think they can definitely do it, especially like if that improved hero power thing can work out.
Yeah.
They are losing Blood to Ichor, which would have actually probably been nice in that deck, which kind of sucks. And in general, they're losing Cthulhu. This is the other class we mentioned that is losing the Cthulhu strategy for which it actually matters.
Yes.
But some kind of Fatigue Warrior, some kind of Recruit Warrior could definitely be a thing.
Yeah, definitely.
They're still keeping a bunch of the really good dragons, and they're keeping Dragon Hatcher, and there was some kind of combo deck that used Dragon Hatcher, the Recruit cards, and then also that Oakheart dude. And you could cheat out the Dragon Hatcher because it only has 2 power.
Huh. That's interesting.
So that could be a thing. They're losing Deathwing, and Yasharj, which were definitely both in the deck. But I think it was also using like double the 4/12 just taunt. It's like a common.
Oh, the Sleepy Dragon or whatever. Yeah, I know the deck you're talking about.
And you could just throw in Primordial Drakes.
That's true.
If you're short on dragons.
Yeah, that's still around. That's still a really good card. Well, definitely one worth keeping in mind if you're trying to build either a mid-range deck or a control deck.
Yeah, that thing is very difficult to answer. I think a big class to think about would be Warlock, and I think I'm seeing less Siphon Souls and more of the Spellstone, which does not cut it. Right, that does not kill the Drake.
Yeah, so that's definitely worth keeping on. So yeah, that's like a bunch of classes are getting hurt by this, but some are surprisingly unaffected. Either way, I think we're losing a lot of really notable archetypes. Secret Mage was probably the biggest surprise to me, but also the Jades were something I expected. But that has a really rippling impact on 2 classes.
Mm-hmm. And also no more or a much weaker Token Druid is probably good.
Yeah, and no more Yasharj, no more Barnes Yasharj decks. That's nice.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see some big things shaking up. A lot of a lot of strategies that were sort of common on the ladder for several seasons will be going now, which is like a good thing. It's good to shake up the game.
It sucks about Thrall. The Shaman is in a really bad spot and it's losing a bunch of really great cards. But on the other hand, I'm pretty happy for Warrior because it's also in a bad spot, but it seems to not be losing that much. So Warrior could actually get much better after this rotation, I think.
I think so too. Yeah, it really depends what they print, but I think that we have room now for something really good, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited for them to try and really make a replacement for Fiery War Axe.
Yeah,
I think this would be a great set to do it because this is the first set of the 3 sets of standard. So if they can really nail it with a good warrior weapon that at least works in control, then we'll have it for 2 years. So I'm really hoping that they are putting effort into that.
Yeah, I was about to say Bladed Gauntlet with Baku, but that doesn't work. It's Baku's odd cards.
Oh right, oops.
Yeah, whoops. That's a shame. Oh well, you can't get them all.
You know what? And I think, wait. You could play the Worgen guy and make your hero power cost 1. And play Justicar in your deck in Wild.
Oh wow, that's silly. Well, is this your starting hero power cost 1? I don't know how that'll interact with Justicar.
Oh, you know what? I think you might be right.
Yeah.
Wait, so does that mean it wouldn't work with Raza or Shadow Reaper Anduin?
Yeah. I actually don't know. I assume not. Otherwise, they would just say your hero power cost 1, right?
Yeah, they
thought about
Raza says for the rest of the game your hero power costs 1.
Right. Yeah, I think they might have learned their lesson, but
oh wow! So they purposely designed it to not work with Anduin. Interesting. Probably, it could do. It's hard to know what a Hearthstone guard does until you play it.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, that's one of the downsides of having the game handle your rules engine. Is sometimes you see a card in the spoiler, you're like, wow, I have no idea what that does.
It's like, you replace your hero with Jiraxis? Jiraxis?
Replace your hero with Ragnaros the Fire Lord? What? Yeah, so it's a silly game with silly cards. Do you think that's a good place to wrap up?
Yeah, I think that we pretty much covered everything, and it does look like this is going to be a big shake.
Yeah, I think so too. We're seeing a lot of really interesting cards, interesting effects spoiled so far, and we're losing a whole lot also. And I think that's good. Losing stuff is fun. It was Mark Rosewater who said that restrictions breed creativity. So now's the time to get creative.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked for that. They've been talking about this design space. I'm looking forward to them, filling it with design.
Yeah, I wish they would fill my design space. So you can fill our design space on twitter.com/lastturnhs or facebook.com/lastturnhs. You can find us on lastturnhs.com. You can find links to all our stuff there. As always, we're on iTunes and Google Play. You can find our podcast there or on SoundCloud. There's sort of a myriad other services as well that I believe auto-update. The ones that don't auto-update aren't getting updated. If you want us to update a service that we're not updating, please let us know on Twitter or Facebook or something. Just hit us up and talk to us.
We're pretty obedient, so if you just tell us to do something, we'll just do it.
That's the truth.
Speaking of which, we're also on YouTube.
That's true. Yeah. So you can find our podcast on YouTube as well, uploaded in video format if that's your preferred medium. But
and we hope you we hope you very much enjoyed joining us and learned a bunch of stuff and are excited for Witchy Woods.
Yeah, we are. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you guys next turn.
See you next time.